What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Adam back at you again. Hashtag rebound day 95 here in Houston, Texas. And if you were watching yesterday's video, I think it was it was yesterday. I had to cut the video short because if you watched all of it, all 5 or 6 of you that made it to the end, you'd see that my phone ran out of storage space, and I talked about it before it even happened because these warnings were flashing up at me while I was trying to talk to you. And so by the time I backed up all the video files and started recording again, my friends came home and the house was no longer empty. There was a lot of noise in the background as usual, and I didn't want to sit here adding more noise to the situation and, making it so people can't watch TV in the room below. And so I just got back to focusing on getting some client projects done. And I got a long streak of days off from the bakery. And so I'm taking advantage of that to try and get as much done as I can. It's going pretty smooth. I'm having a good time with it. I'm finally at the point with this one design project where you go from looking at something as a designer and you hate it, you hate it, you hate it, you hate it. You can do better, it can be better, it can be better, and then finally you reach a point where, oh, now I like it. Now I like where it's going. Oh, now I can see this thing looking good. And so I'm there with this one project. And so I'm enjoying that, seeing this come to fruition and kind of seeing it fall into place. It's been a little bit of a challenge. Everything has been a challenge here in Houston. But today, FedEx showed up and I am now a real person again. I have a birth certificate in my hand. I'm gonna go the soonest appointment at the local DMV is January 3rd, which is 2 weeks from today, to give it another crack at trying to get my driver's license. But there is a clause on their website that says if you show up when they open, there are a limited number of appointments available same day. So I'm just gonna take that whole, you can't just wait in line and talk to somebody at the DMV here. You have to have an appointment. So what will happen is, I think Monday I might get on my bicycle. It's like 8 miles to the DMV. I might just hop on my bicycle with the caveat of I might just be going on a fitness ride today. But I might try to get to the DMV one morning before they open with enough time that I could be one of the first people in line to book a same-day appointment and see if I can get this completely done next week instead of having to wait 2 more weeks. But I have an appointment, and when you have an appointment booked in advance, at least when you get there, they're going to take you in and you're going to be good to go. But 2-3 weeks, and then I got the appointment on the soonest day I possibly could, and I don't know, I'm just kind of sick of this whole thing. And I have the birth certificate. Maybe it's the wrong color. Who knows? I'm going to go back in there. Who knows if it's going to be the right color or it's in the wrong font. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what my next challenge is going to be with my bullshit government paperwork, but I'm trying to get it done. And I took one more step closer today. Also went to the post office today because I had filled out a change of address form and they wouldn't accept my online identity. So I had to go there in person. They took my New York driver's license and they tried scanning it and the thing wouldn't work, which kind of, New York State is notorious for shitty IDs. I've experienced that anytime I've ever lived in New York. The IDs just they're not good. And I've had numerous problems with my New York State driver's license whenever you need to scan your license to verify something online. The barcode never works. It never works. And now I've seen it in person where someone scans it at the post office. Dude sat there scanning the thing 15 times and it wouldn't scan. But it's a legit ID and there's no smudges on it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just New York they're inept. They don't know how to make a freaking ID card. It's 2024. Maybe they'll figure it out by 3024. I don't know. But by then we're going to have that Mark of the Beast chip, and I don't think we got much longer to wait for the Beast and the one world government and the whole, last days are upon us. I mean, it could be next week. So get ready. But yeah, I'm getting close to finishing some projects. They've been taking too long, in my opinion. But it's a good experience for me right now, and it's typical when you're starting a business like this to run into snags and hiccups and things taking longer than you would expect. And under the current circumstances and everything I've been through this year, I'm trying not to beat myself up over this stuff, and I'm just trying to keep moving forward. So yeah, I left off on the last video abruptly, talking about government BS and ineptitude and antiquity and so on and so forth. That, once again, this government has, they can sign off on another $1 billion to send over to the Ukraine, but they can't upgrade their computers in the government offices to Windows 98, and here it's 2024 and they're still not there. You go into these government offices, they still got these green screens like the Apple IIe that we had when I was in first grade, for fuck's sake. They're still using the same computers that I was using at school when I was in kindergarten. And computers were like a brand new thing. So, my friend the other day, aside from my government BS, he was telling me that he has to fax some information to the government for some insurance or tax bullshit or something like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. Did you say you have to fax something? Like, are you kidding me? Who the hell uses a fax anymore? For real. But if I'm being honest, just about every company I've worked for out of an actual office has a fax machine sitting there for some reason. I don't even get it. Like, we have email, we have phones with cameras on them, we have everything that you would need to not have to use this antiquated fax machine to send things back and forth. But for some reason, some people are still using these things. I mean, we've had automobiles now for 140 years or more, but you still see a horse and buggy from time to time, especially when I lived out in Volant, PA, in Mercer County. I saw plenty of them. Up to the 6 years before I was arrested, every day I'd be sitting in my sunroom and I'd hear coming down the street, followed by the sound of these squeaky steel wheels grinding on the pavement. And I mean, these Amish buggies, they destroy the roads. They put these big giant ruts through the roads that they travel on a daily basis. Within a year, they'll completely destroy a road with their horse and buggies, to the point where you driving a beefed up Jeep Wrangler down the road, your shocks are taking a beating, and forget driving the Mini Cooper on those roads. That'll completely destroy the car. But our government, we're still using fax machines, I guess. I mean, they may as well just have people on the Pony Express showing up to my house on horseback to put my document in a leather satchel and take 4 to 6 days to take it off to another state. I mean, here in Texas, they have horseback security guards at the plaza where the bakery is that I work at. And I mean, everybody thinks that's hysterical, and it's a totally Texas, they say. In the Northeast, the security guards are riding around on Segways. So, it doesn't have the same cool factor. But, I told my friend that there's a web-based fax service I used to use called eFax. Back in the day, you could pay $12 a month. You could still do it today. if you need a fax number, eFax is where it's at. The fax, if I receive a fax, it would drop right into my email box as a PDF file. I wouldn't even have to deal with paper. And it seemed like once every 6 months to a year, I would have to send a fax to somebody, like a client or probably some government office or whatever. So that for a while it was worth it, but that $12 a month adds up when you're not sending and receiving faxes. And eventually I just canceled the account because, email's only been around since, since the 70s technically, but everybody had an email account in the mid 1990s. It was common. But now, someone asking for a fax instead of just giving out an email address or a web link or, heaven forbid, giving me a QR code to scan. That's like going to iTunes or Spotify and getting in touch with customer service and asking them if they can help you download their music to an 8-track cassette tape. I mean, even to this day, you can buy a car with a regular old cassette deck in some cases. I mean, those didn't completely die out until around the year 2000, give or take. And I had a 1996 Jeep Cherokee that had a cassette deck in it from the factory. But you got to go back to the early 1980s and the 70s to find an 8-track in a vehicle. And yeah, I loved that Jeep, but I never got around to putting in a good sound system the whole time I owned it. Money was tight, and I just didn't care. I wasn't listening to music much when I drove, whatever. The 3 vehicles that I owned before I got arrested, they all had CD. Well, at least two of them had a CD player. I don't know about the third one. The third one probably did too, but I never used it. My Wrangler had an aux jack built right into the head unit. My Mini Cooper had this weird jack in the back of the factory radio that with a special cable, you could, in some flexible arm maneuvering, you could kind of get into the back of the thing without pulling it out and pulling the dash all apart. And you could plug in a specially shaped aux cable into a jack in the back of this thing and then have a cable coming out to plug stuff into. And so that's what I did. And I just let that thing lay near the shift lever with an adapter to plug my phone into it. And then I had this Nissan Frontier that was pretty new, and it had Bluetooth and a USB port and all that kind of modern stuff. And I only used Bluetooth with that. The other vehicles, I just plugged a cable into my phone. But someone asking me to send a fax these days, dude, what the hell? Like I said, it's like asking Spotify to allow you to purchase music on an 8-track. I mean, vinyl is still cool. Vinyl's making a comeback even. It goes off and on. It comes and goes. And the main reason is that the fidelity of the audio on vinyl, it surpasses digital. It's way better than digital. Sorta, kinda. I used to be a rave DJ and a house music DJ, and I know firsthand that the quality of the sound that you get on a vinyl record is superb if it's recorded correctly. But vinyl is susceptible to that scratching and popping sounds in the background when you've played the record too much or you've scratched the record too much on your turntables, or just the dust gathering in the grooves and all that kind of stuff. It makes these crackling and popping sounds that you hear in the background. Back in the day as a house DJ, it really wouldn't matter because the bass from a vinyl record pumped through a thousands of watts sound system will shake a building to the point where you don't hear anything else. But I've used all that stuff. I'm analog and digital. That's one of the marks of being a Generation X kid. We all had to be experts and know how to do everything by hand. And we also had to know how to use a computer inside and out to do everything digitally. So the people before my generation, they're clueless when it comes to computers. They don't know how to do squat on a computer. They can barely call somebody with an iPhone. And anybody who was born after my generation, they don't know they don't even know how to tell the time on a fucking clock if it has hands instead of numbers. So, but as for a fax machine, you know, I'm of the last generation who can actually remember using one of these things and knowing how they work. So there you go. Once again, because we are sending all of our money to the Ukraine, our government can't afford a fucking Gmail account, and instead they force us to send a fucking fax to them. So anyway, I'm moving on from this. I'm beating a dead horse, and I got my birth certificate, so why do I care anymore? The only thing I care about now is getting to the next step. Maybe Texas will say the birth certificate's the wrong color or the wrong font or some other dumbass thing, and who knows what. But for now, I should be good. I'm going to get more serious about looking for a apartment and a better job. And I'm within the, you know, it's Christmas right now, so what, you know, there's only so much you can do, but I am going to dedicate a certain amount of time every day to this within the next week or so. I need to start doing what I had to do at the homeless shelter and start forcing myself to get out of bed at 6:30 every morning at the latest. At the homeless shelter, we were required to be out of bed by 7 a.m. Breakfast was served at 7:30, and we had to be out of the shelter at 9 a.m. And there were certain exceptions to that, like Sunday you could sleep in, things like that. But once you got into that strict routine, your body just kind of adapts and does what's necessary. And so I was getting up at 6:30 every morning without an alarm, just getting out of bed, getting a shower, everything I needed to do, and I was on my way. But after I got to Texas and I started this job at the bakery, and granted, there are a lot of nights where I work until 10 or 11 p.m., and then I ride a bicycle back to the house. And the homeless shelter had a 9 p.m. curfew. So the whole time I was living in the homeless shelter, I was never out after 9 p.m. because I wasn't allowed to be. I'd have to sleep out in the street if I did that. It sucked. But especially during the summer when the sun hasn't even set yet, and I got a curfew saying I got to go be in this building instead of being able to watch the sunset, whatever. But I didn't want to have to sleep out in the street, so you just did what you had to do. But now I've got the ability to sleep in, and you combine that with the sometimes working late and these clopen shifts that I was working for a bit, the bicycling and some other factors, all of a sudden I got comfortable sleeping in. It took about a month for that to kick in, where I wasn't waking up on my own at 6:30 anymore. And, you know, even now, normally by sleeping in, I mean like 8, sometimes 9 a.m. Sometimes I'll wake up at 8 and mess around on my phone for a while before rolling out of bed. But lately, there have been a couple of times here and there, especially this last week, where I was so exhausted, I'll sleep until 10 a.m. And maybe even once or twice I'll sleep until noon. And I can't do that. You know, it's nice. Sometimes your body just needs to recharge, but it's harder to get things done even if I stay up late and sit and work until midnight. You know, I got to try and get myself up early. From April 2nd, the day I was released from prison, until September 12th, I never had one single day, not one single morning, not a Sunday or a Saturday, not one single time was I able to sleep past 7 a.m. in the morning. And even in Danbury, at the prison, in Danbury, Connecticut, they basically wake up the entire prison around 6 in the morning, turn on all the lights, start blasting all kinds of stuff on these loudspeakers, like, you're not sleeping. You're not sleeping. It's really hard to sleep in past that, except for maybe on the weekends when they don't start all the noise in the wake-up routine until around 10 a.m., but once you're in that routine of just naturally getting up at 6 every morning, you're just going to get up. They open up the yard at Danbury at, like, if you're awake and they're turning on the lights and blasting all the sound through the system and stuff and making all the announcements like you're on a military base, then the yard is pretty much open. And so you can just get up, get dressed, and just start going for a walk outside on this, I think it was a 1/4 mile long walking track surrounded by some sports fields and stuff. And so I would do this every morning just to get into a routine of weight loss and health, and just trying to make myself so that when I came home I was as healthy as I could be. Because prior to going to Danbury, I was in some really bad shape from what I had been put through for 14, 15 months at the places that they had me in were just abysmal. And so, honestly, from December in 2023 through September 12th this year, I didn't sleep in past 7, ever. Can't remember a time where I would have. And, even when I was homeless, getting up early, it resulted in me getting a lot done during the day. Some days were more productive than others, but, this week right now, I have, it started out as a span of 5 days without having to go to work, and now it's turned into 9 days without having to go to the bakery, of which this is day 3 of the 9. And so I've been putting in 8 to 10 hours a day on my freelance stuff and making some big progress, and it's good. The more I get done, the better. But the bakery, it's just very random. Sometimes I get 40 hours in a week. Sometimes I get 25. This week I got 12, Monday and Tuesday, and then I was off. Like I said, I have 9 days off in a row, and then I have 16 hours for next week. And they're saying it's just because of the holiday slowdown. Ironically, people are making their own cookies instead of buying cookies for the holidays. And so, I don't know. It's a part-time job. It is what it is. I'm not okay with it, but I'm not bitter. I'm not I figure it's all happening for a reason, and I need these days off to do my other thing. So I don't want to have to work at a bakery making minimum wage, working with a bunch of high school kids for, the next 10 fucking years or whatever. So I got to do what I got to do. So yeah, I mean, it was a little bit difficult this week to get up in the morning after I worked until about 10 or 11 at night for the 2 days I did work. But I did some things to my phone. I got my old Star Wars ringtones back in effect. I tweaked some of the apps to try and make it so that I'll wake up earlier. And I did get up earlier today than I did yesterday and the day before. And so each day of this 9-day stretch, if I can just get up a little bit earlier each day until I'm back in that routine of just getting up at 6 or whatever the case. Even if I get up at 6 and just chill for an hour, hour and a half, and get to work by 8, that's a good routine. And so that's all I'm trying to get myself back into. My body's had a lot of chances to recharge and relax since I've been here in Texas, but I got a lot of stuff I got to get done. And so I just got to train the body to get into that routine again. And, maybe Sunday I'll sleep in till I feel like it. But, it's hard. It's hard once you break that habit that, the getting up before 7 a.m. for almost 2 years probably. And it felt good to finally be able to sleep in. Well, now it's really hard to go back. If I had to get up and go to work, like at a job where, I'm going to get fired if I don't show up on time, then I would be able to get up on time and I wouldn't even need an alarm. But when I know that I don't have to, my body's kind of fighting back when it comes to getting up in the morning. And so, I might be sitting at my computer at 8:45 instead of 8, and just trying to be productive, but, just trying to do as much productive stuff as I can, getting things moving, getting the grease, getting the squeaky wheel greased before 9 in the morning is probably the best thing for me right now. I'm just not naturally a morning person. I'm more of a night owl, and I just don't do well with getting up early in the morning. But I can stay up all night in my normal, natural rhythm of things when I'm left on my own and I don't have any obligations and I can just do whatever I feel like doing with no consequence. That's how things tend to fall into place. So yeah, I mean, at the homeless shelter, because like I said, the 9 p.m. curfew, and you were required to go to Betty by at 11 p.m. and they would come around and, you know, harass you if you didn't. That was part of the reason why I was able to get up at 6:30 every morning without an alarm, because I was getting enough sleep. And you know, so anyway, I don't know. The other day, I worked the last night. Was it? It had to be 2 nights ago. I worked until 10 o'clock and rode my bicycle back to the house, and came really close to flipping over the handlebars because I looked up and there was this roadkill right in front of me, and I'm on a road with no shoulders and cars zipping by, you know, 6 inches from my shoulder, and the only thing that I could do was slam on the brakes and skirt around this dead raccoon or whatever the hell it was, and I went into the ditch, and I had to like just hold on for dear life and hope that I could slow down and not end up in the ditch, because it's not a mountain bike, it's a skinny tired road bike, and if I had hit that thing dead on, it would have resulted in either me going over the handlebars quick, like instantly, and probably breaking an arm, or getting a bunch of dead animal juice all up in my face squirted out at me. One or the other, neither one of which I wanted to deal with. But after getting home and having a snack, I went up and watched a show that I've been into. I just can't fall asleep right away when I come home from a job at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. It's impossible. If I went to bed and laid in bed, I would just lay there for 3 hours, not being able to fall asleep. So after I did fall asleep around 2 a.m., I didn't have the energy to wake up at 5:30 or 6:30 or even 7:30. And so, you know, but over the last couple of days, I've been able to get myself up earlier and earlier because I'm just kind of trying to force it to happen. And I don't have the previous night's activities keeping me from getting a good night's sleep. So when I started the bakery job, I had no issues being there at 7 a.m. every morning that's how they had scheduled me at first, 7 a.m. over and over and over and over again, and I was all right with that. I didn't like getting up early enough to do that, but I was home in the middle of the afternoon and it was okay. But then they stopped making me do that, and I think part of it was because I don't have a key to open the store, and I ride my bicycle. The earliest they ever have me come in anymore is like 8 a.m. And I think it's because if I were to come in at 7 a.m., sometimes the person who opens the store arrives right at 7 a.m. on the dot. And then I've got to go to the bathroom, and I still need 10 or 15 minutes to get changed and get ready for work. So I don't think they're having me come in at 7 anymore just for that reason, so that if they schedule me at 8, I'll come in at like 7:45, and, you know, I won't be starting my day 15 minutes late. I mean, that's the kind of place it is. They count. If you're standing around for 30 seconds not doing something, they'll tell you to go fold boxes or do something. Like, you don't get to just stand because there's nothing to do. You know, you ever see the McDonald's movie? If you got time to lean, you got time to clean. That's what this is like. So, they're clock watchers, and that's just how it is in a place like that. And I'm used to working at jobs that don't care about my whereabouts or anything that I'm doing unless there's a meeting I'm required to attend or a deadline that I need to meet. And if the deadlines aren't met, or if I'm absent from a meeting I'm supposed to be at, we got a problem. But otherwise, nobody cares. Nobody cares at all. Do your work, be where you're supposed to be. Otherwise, we don't care. We're paying you to get this stuff done. We don't care what you have to do to get it done. But yeah, this week, last week, with everything that I have to get done and this birth certificate hassle and the driver's license and some other stuff, and trying to find a place to live and a car and all these different things, the anxiety is coming back. It's creeping in. I have a month and a half or less to get a whole lot of things done, and this level of stress, it can be paralyzing. But I keep turning to the Lord and asking Him to let me know if everything is going to be okay. You know, I have, like anybody in my situation would have, a pretty big fear of falling on my face and ending up homeless again, except this time it's in Houston and the weather's better. But I was reading the book that I read all the time, and I share with you guys pretty much, what is it, every other video just about. The book is called Jesus Calling. The author is Sarah Young. It's a daily devotional, and she just talks to you in the way you read the book is as if Jesus is sitting next to you having a conversation with you, and He's talking to you. It's not the Bible. It references lots of Bible verses, but you just got to think about this as if Jesus is kind of chilling with you and He's giving you some advice. And the advice He gave me on December 16th was, I am speaking in the depths of your being. Be still so that you can hear my voice. I speak in the language of love. My words fill you with life and peace, joy and hope. I desire to talk with all my children, but many are too busy to listen. The work ethic has them tied up in knots. They submit wholeheartedly to this taskmaster, wondering why they feel so distant from me. Living close to me requires making me your first love, your highest priority. As you seek my presence above all else, you experience peace and joy in full measure. I am also blessed when you make me first in your life. While you journey through life in my presence, my glory brightens the world around you. And yeah, I can talk about that, especially this whole work ethic, having people tied up in knots, and how they submit wholeheartedly to their taskmasters, wondering why they feel so distant from God. Because that's what corporate America wants. That's what corporate America demands of you these days. You know, a lot of people are talking about Elon Musk being this great, benevolent corporate guy. He's so good. He's so inventive, and he's done all these great things for our society, and now he's going to help streamline the government and yada, yada, yada. Fine. Okay. He's done some cool things. But I wouldn't want to work for the guy. That guy's a fucking slave master. He's a taskmaster and a half. From everything I've ever heard about Elon Musk, if you work for one of his companies, you're on call, you're on duty, you're on the clock 24/7. That's it. You don't get time off. You're working 12, 15, 24 hours a day, whatever the fuck he demands you to work. And if you don't, you don't meet a deadline, your rocket blows up, whatever the case may be, you're done. We're done. We're out of here. You're fired. So it's the kind of opportunity you could say, yeah, I worked with Elon Musk. You could put that on your resume. If you can tough it out for 3 to 5 years, that might be a benefit. You might be able to take that somewhere, but you are going to suffer and take 20 years off the end of your life to get that 3 years on your resume working for one of his companies with the stress he's going to put you through. You know, we talk about Amazon, working for that Jeff Bezos asshole. You work in an Amazon warehouse, they got people peeing in water bottles because they're not allowed to take a bathroom break. You know, and I'm not saying that working at this bakery where I'm at is anywhere near that bad. But if I go and take a pee at the bakery, I can tell you who it is. I'm not going to name names, but somebody is actually looking at a clock and seeing how long it took me to come back from the bathroom to see if we're going to have a problem or not. But I get things done. I get along with everybody there. We're joking around. We're having a good time now. Don't take that as a complaint. It's just the kind of job it is. But this isn't my goal in life to work like that. You work at these modern companies. I'm telling you, I'm just going off the cuff with this topic here. I told you guys about the company where I worked back in 2009, where I was fired for going to the hospital for the birth of my son. And this company was just one of these tech companies with a bunch of young kids, and these kids, they had these poor kids working these kids were coming in at like 7 in the morning, the design team coming in at like 7 in the morning, and they were working until like 2 in the morning. And they brought cots into the office, and they were sleeping on these fucking cots in the office for like maybe 2 or 3 hours, waking up, sitting back at their computer and putting in another, 18 to 20 hour day. And I'm not exaggerating about this. This is what was happening. So you see it in a lot of these modern tech companies. You got all these companies now, these hipster douchebag tech companies with this. I don't know if you ever hear about people getting pet insurance at work. Pet insurance. And the reason why they're offering pet insurance to their employees is because they don't want people that have kids. They figure, I'll let them have a dog, because you can leave a dog in a crate. You can leave a dog in the apartment for, 20 hours and it probably won't die. Just put enough food in the bowl, give it a newspaper to take a shit on, you're good, right? Kids need a parent from time to time, and they're not paying you enough at these places to have a nanny raise your kids. Only the CEO gets to do that. And so they don't want people with families coming into these jobs. They want young, obedient kids who are totally fine with working 20 to 22 hours a day, making $40,000 a year on a salary, so that they're not even making overtime for the extra hours that they're working above 40. That's what these companies want. They just want people that are married to the company, who go to church at the office, who worship the company instead of God. That's what they want. They want someone who is 100% a company man. And that means you don't go home and you don't see your family and you don't see your kids and you don't see your wife anymore. You live this job. And even when you're home and you're with the family and you're with the kids and you're with the dog, you're on the phone talking to somebody about work. You're in a meeting on fucking Zoom. You're answering emails. You're waiting at line at the grocery store and texting and responding to an email you just got. You can't even wait until you go out to the fucking parking lot and get in your car. And that's the lifestyle that they want you to live when you work for these fucking companies. They want to take away your humanity and make it so you have absolutely nothing else going on in your life but this fucking job. I mean, you may as well be working in a coal mine in West Virginia for 14 hours a day getting black lung, because it's not much different. And so that is not my goal in life right now. It's not. But in order to get where I want to be, I'm going to have to put up with some shit for a while, that's for sure, based on, just the mistakes that I've made. And so in a lot of videos, I talk about, tracking my to-do list and, just having something to kind of gauge my progress and a place to set goals and see if I can meet them and all that kind of stuff. And so I don't forget. And I have this to-do list thing called Trello. And I've talked about it. I talked about Kanban boards in the last video, and that's basically what it is. But I've been using this to-do list tracking board since April, when I came home from prison. And for the last few weeks, I had a little bit of a conundrum, as when I scrub through this list, I'm not finding things that I can cross off as having been accomplished or finished. Or in a lot of cases, I can't even find stuff that I've worked on. Nothing. And I have, at the time I took these notes, I had 212 things on this board, but right now I think I'm at like 232. In fact, I can, it's right in front of me here. I can just look. Oh, 235 items on my to-do list right now. And so when I started doing this, I was doing it so that I could prove to other people who might put me on blast. There were several of them that I'm actually getting things done. And so sometimes if I got something done or accomplished something and it wasn't on my list, but it was something worthy of saying, look, I didn't sit around doing nothing this week, I would add it to the done column just to have a record of what I did from week to week. But I've stopped doing that since I moved, especially since I moved to Texas, and I only really do it here and there. So there are a lot of things that I get done week after week now, but I'm not keeping track of it meticulously, and it was never on my to-do list in the first place. Maybe in the first couple of weeks when I was here where I thought, maybe this probation officer might put me on blast, accusing me of being lazy or whatever the case may be, but I'm really not. I'm not being accused of being lazy really by anybody. And so I haven't taken the time to add everything I get done to the list, even if it wasn't on the list already. And these are just random things that come up during any given week. Things that show up, you cross them off, you move on. I didn't have to cross them off the list because they never made it to the list. And then I'm in more of, I'm in a routine of working at this bakery and doing other things that need to get done, and just trying to get back on track with the new business and all the other income streams that I'm trying to set up and everything else. And so everything, when I look at this to-do list, was just, I'm feeling overwhelmed. 235 things I'm staring at right now. And I'm like, how in the world am I going to get this done? There isn't enough time in the day. And so every now and then I kind of have to stop what I'm doing, and I've done this a couple of other times since April, and just take this entire to-do list and reorganize the whole thing. Reprioritize the whole thing. Try to weed out what's truly important and try to make this whole to-do list useful again. And so it needed a bit of an overhaul, and I took time. There was a couple of days this week where, like I said, I had to work at the bakery at night. And so during the day, I really don't feel like I can dig deep into any long haul projects that require, dozens of hours of my time. I can work on things that are smaller chunks of time. And so I took some time on Monday to reorganize this entire to-do list board. Reprioritize everything, come up with new sorting rules to help organize it. Like if any of the columns or the category has more than 25 things in it, I'll break it into 2 categories and then group the things into the 2 categories so that the cards that are in each category are related to each other more tightly than if all 50 of them were in a column together. And so this helped take a couple of columns that had 50, 60 items and just kind of group them together into smaller groups. And then once again, I went through every single item and gave it a new due date. Or I just deleted it if it was something that I don't want to do anymore. And I sorted each column is now sorted by the due date. And then the columns themselves are sorted by the earliest due dates being in the front of the pile, and the ones where the earliest due date in the column is far off, those are at the back of the list. And so now I have a much better idea of what my priorities actually are, both for the short term and the long term things I'm trying to do. And it only took me an hour or 2 to do this on Monday, to go through this entire thing, add things to it that I thought were missing, that I thought of as I was putting these things together. And then it just kind of, it's 235 things. They're not all going to get done. They're just not. But it's nice to have a record of these are the things, if in a perfect world, I would like to do all of these things. And then they're just kind of sorted by, well, what's the most important with, birth certificate, driver's license, finding an apartment, buying a car. Those are near the very top. Finishing freelance jobs. Those are all at the top of the list right now. And so, I have, like I said, I have some quick things I can check off on the days where I don't have much time to put in. And I just have a few hours to be productive. And once again, the list is now useful again. And it actually isn't even overwhelming to look at, because I can look at some of the columns all the way in the back. Some of those have an earliest due date for April 30th of 2025. And all that means is that I'm just not focused on that stuff right now, but maybe 6 months from now I'd like to do it. For example, I have a portfolio for my user experience design work in the software industry. And in that category, I had about 45 different items that I wanted to do for my portfolio. Some of those were design related, some were related to building a website. Some of them were related to putting up samples of actual code on a certain website where you can easily show off your programming skills. And so I broke those tasks into 3 separate categories instead of one lumped together category. Category of my portfolio itself, where I continue building out this portfolio that I'm using to try and find work. And then a category specifically for building a website for the portfolio. And then another category for adding some really complicated, cool code samples to a certain website tool that allows me to easily show off code that I've written for different projects that is like above and beyond code that you would normally write as a basic programmer, just to show off that, yeah, I'm a designer, but I know how to build stuff too. And so the code sample category has 7 things in the list. And, I've can easily add 4 or 5 samples to that code repository, things that I already have, and could dig up the code in my, hard drives and my storage and my, my backup files, and rework it and twist things around and make it generic so it doesn't have a company logo on it, all that kind of stuff, and just show it off in this code sample repository. But is that really a priority for me right now when I've got to find a place to live, and I got to find a car, and I got to get my Texas driver's license, and I've got to finish up client projects, and I'm working on this YouTube channel, and I'm doing all these other things. So no, the code samples, the UX website, those are all things I'm thinking maybe April. Maybe April I'll do some of that work. But here in December, no. The next 3-4 months, I don't see it happening. So, you know what I mean? Like, of course, the portfolio is a high priority. But, I've set some goals for March on that. And why March? Because I need to find a place to live by February 1st and get a car, get some freelance projects done, like I just said. And since I use my bicycle for transportation right now, I have a list of 10 different things I have to do for the bicycle, and now those are on their own list. And I need to plan for that, and that's going to take an entire day of my life just to get the bicycle stuff done. Or at least I have to plan on it taking a single day. Even if I can do all of it in an hour, I have to figure out how to get it done, and I have to plan on it taking a day. When I had more or less had a complete bicycle shop in my home with all the tools hanging on pegboards, all organized, a permanent work stand, and everything was highly organized, then yeah, an hour or 2 would be enough for the 10 different things I need to do. But right now I'm in my friend's garage with a mix of my own and his tools, and things are kind of all over the place, and I'm living out of boxes and storage totes. and I might need some bicycle specific tools that I don't even have right now, and and I might not even find out until I'm doing the work, and so it might not even get done in a single day, and that's just the bicycle to-do list. And then I have other categories of items that are higher priority than my bicycle right now. And the bicycle really just becomes a priority when I need to fix it because it's broken and I can't get to my job or can't get around. Regular maintenance isn't even high on the list right now because I'm just too overwhelmed by everything else. In the last few weeks, I'm back, since I got sick, I'm back to putting in about 70 hours a week of being productive. And it doesn't mean I'm billing people for 70 hours of my time every week. It means I work at a bakery. I get ready and transport myself to and from that job. And I count the time that I spend getting ready for that and riding the bicycle back and forth as being productive. Because if I didn't do those things, I wouldn't be able to get to and from the job. And even if I drove to a job and had a commute where I have to drive into Houston every day, I would track the time for my own purposes that I spend commuting back and forth. So let's say I get a job working from home later. I can really compare apples to apples in terms of how much money I'm making versus the time I actually spend on a job, including the transportation to and from. So if I spend 2 to 3 hours a day commuting to a job and I get a job making slightly less money, but I work from home, I might actually be making more money per hour when you factor in all the extra crap involved with commuting back and forth. And, so I spend time organizing my personal life, tasks, other things that need to be done, and I don't count that as sitting on my ass. I count that as being productive. I spend time searching for a better job, sending out resumes, talking to recruiters, doing interviews if they come up. I'm also, like I said, searching for an apartment, searching for a car, and other things that I can't. There's a lot of these things that I'm being productive with, but I can't say to the probation officer, look how much I worked this week, but all of that stuff is still work. For him, I can only count the time I spend working at the bakery job, not the commuting on the bicycle and all that stuff. And I can count the hours that I spend on my freelance business, either directly for clients or the time I spend working on my own marketing materials and stuff like that can all be lumped in together because I'm running a business. But if he turns around and say I need to get a better job and prove to him that I'm looking for one, I can certainly count the hours and number of applications and resumes and all that kind of stuff as proof that I'm doing what he asks of me and keeping myself on track. But right now, having my own place, a more steady paycheck in whatever form it comes, a different job that has more regular hours and better pay, a vehicle, and some other things, that will significantly open up the amount of time on my weekly clock, on this weekly 70-hour budget that I have to work on other things. And then that 235 item to-do list will get smaller and smaller and smaller, and even with new things popping up. And, I know 500 more things are going to show up between now and the end of next year. So it's not a list that I intend to finish. It's a list where I keep track of what I want to do in a perfect world, knowing that the world's not perfect. And I'm prioritizing things in such a way that by getting the most important things done, getting a car and being able to get around town in a reasonable amount of time, grocery shopping, all the different things, it opens up the amount of distance I can travel to go to get a job. Getting a car will open up a lot more time for me to get things done because I'm no longer relying on a bicycle. Next week, I've got to hop on a bicycle and go to the DMV to get my driver's license switched. And that is just on a whim, like maybe Monday morning. I got to take the chance that if I get to the DMV a half hour before they open, I can get there early enough in line to maybe get an appointment on the same day, which may not be until 4 in the afternoon. Who knows? I don't know how it all works. I might be able to get in there and get my driver's license stuff done that day. But because I'm on a bicycle and I don't even have a car right now, that's 16 miles of bicycling that I have to do and get ready for and get completely covered in sweat for, and all the extra stuff involved with transporting to and from. It would be a 5-minute drive, but it's going to be 2 hours out of my day, plus the fatigue that comes with going on a 16-mile bike ride and all that other stuff. Not a big deal, but it adds up. All of these things that I have to ride a bicycle to. If I had to go to downtown Houston for some reason and I can't drive there, it's about 45 miles, so I'm in for an 80-mile bicycle ride. If I have absolutely no choice but to get on my bike and go, I'll do it, because, you know, my longest one-day bicycle ride's 174 miles. I can do it. 80 is, you know, less than half of that. I can do an 80-mile ride. If I leave at 4 in the morning, I'll cover 80 miles before lunch, probably by 11 a.m. And so I can do it. I don't want to do it. And first of all, if I go on an 80-mile ride because I have to do something and I have no choice and I don't have a car right now, that day is gone. That day, there's nothing else happening that day. And then for the next 3 days, my body is going to be a train wreck because of the fatigue of doing that. When if I had a car, that's a 45-minute drive each way, hour and a half in the car, and that's even if there's traffic. And I do whatever I got to do down there, and I'm back before lunch. So there's motivation, and there's also a knowledge knowing that the more of these things I cross off this list, the more time it opens up for me to do the other things that I really want to do with my life. And so it's a game. You just got to treat it like it's a game, you know? Like, I can't even report the time I spend on my video blog as time spent working if the probation officer comes barking at me. At least not unless I'm making enough money from it to pay my rent. You know, maybe if I had 100,000 subscribers on YouTube and I was generating enough money to pay bills and groceries and maybe make my rent payment every month or whatever the case may be, then I could count the time as working, because now I've got verifiable income and it's significant enough that, you know, it beats working in a bakery. But right now on YouTube, I'm making like $100 every 4 to 6 months. And so that's not going to work. That'll pay for one of my software subscriptions that I use for my business right now, and that's about it, if I'm lucky. So, but I count that time in my own system as being productive, and I track this as being productive because keep saying over and over, I'm playing the long game with life. And I want to know how much time I'm putting into these things, even if it's just for my own curiosity and reference. So tracking the time on the video blog. In fact, that's what convinced me to stop doing fancy editing for now and just focus on pushing up a video like this, me talking to you guys without doing any editing 2-3 times a week. Because I can push 3 or 4 of these non-edited videos up in the time it would take to do one well-edited 15-minute long video. And I know this because I track my time, and I know what the difference is between the two styles. And I can tell you pretty accurately how long something's going to take, especially in my creative business. I can tell you how many hours something's going to take, and I'm usually pretty accurate about that. It's how... Right now, the problem is, how do I get the hours to put in? And how do I pull those hours away from other things that need to be done and do the things that I have to do for those projects and all of that stuff. But they say, you know, with the video stuff, perfect is the enemy of done, they say. And, you know, that's a saying you hear all over the place. And it's better to just keep doing something than to sit behind the curtain until you feel like it's perfect. You know, I used to be that guy as a designer. I would, I did a lot of print design for a living. And when you send something to a printer or a press, a printing press, it has to be perfect. If there's a mistake and you just printed 100,000 of whatever the hell it is, are you going to throw them away and do it again? Somebody's going to have to pay for that. And so that was my upbringing as a designer. But now I work on web and digital stuff that things can have problems. You can have a misspelled word on a website. You just log in and you type a new word and you log out and it's done. So eventually I'm going to open up enough time to do the things the way I want to, but right now the priorities just have to take precedence. And like I said, what I was just saying is almost exactly how software companies are actually run today. That's why the bugs that people complain about, they sit in a backlog for 10 plus years and they never get fixed. Because the priority bugs that they do fix are things that either completely destroy the company, like a security breach, or things that break the program or the application for everybody who's using it. And they're just getting completely flooded with angry complaints. Things that are broken but annoying, but you can still get your job done, those things just get pushed aside and they never get fixed. They never get worked on. And then the company also wants to keep building new features all the time. They want to keep adding to the software, so they're going to add everybody now, every month, we added some new AI garbage to the software that nobody even asked for. Nobody wants it. But they're just pushing everything aside to squeeze in the new AI garbage because they feel like that's what they need to do in order to keep selling the product. But they don't fix the bugs. They don't do the stuff that's been sitting there for 10 years that people are complaining about and hate. They're just going to keep adding new garbage. And so that's kind of how life feels right now. I have things that I know I need to get done and I want to get done, but right now there are things above that absolutely must get done so I don't end up homeless again or even back in prison again, or worse than that, who knows? So those things have to be first. And from there, new things are going to show up that I didn't think of today, or that just show up out of the blue. You never know. When my bicycle, one day I was riding my bike to work and ping, ping, 2 spokes broke on the back wheel within a minute of each other. And it was kind of a scary ride home because I'm like, if my wheel is that unstable that 2 spokes just snapped almost instantaneously from each other, I got to go out and buy a new wheel. I got to fix this and I got to do that. And it just adds up. And so that pushed things down the list I wanted to do that week because I had to go to the bike shop and buy a wheel and do all this other stuff and fix things on the bike that made me push off something else. So it's still like I'm chasing my tail and I'm like in a leaky boat. And I'm trying to put my hand over each individual leak. And then I got to put my foot on this hole that just opened up. And I got to put my other foot on this leak over here, or else the boat's just going to keep filling up with water. And before you know it, it's like you're playing Twister. And you're just contorted and you're just trying to... I got my ear on another hole because another leak popped up over here. And I'm not really paddling anywhere anymore. I'm not getting anywhere. I'm just trying to keep the boat from sinking. And that's life right now, just trying to keep the boat from sinking. And so, maybe down the road I'll get to a point where the boats, I either get a new boat or I patch the leaks and I can start going downstream again or getting across this lake or whatever it is. So as I'm cleaning out this Trello board and I'm reorganizing the categories, I'm setting the new due dates and just reprioritizing everything, weeding out stuff that I want to delete from just stuff that I know I'm never going to do and I don't even want to anymore. Adding new things to the list as I think of them, and things I'm working on right now that I didn't bother adding to the list just so I'm tracking it. I figured, maybe Trello would be a good place to start with doing some video tutorials here on YouTube, because it's an easy app to use. It would be useful to a lot of you. It's free. If you're disorganized and you want to get your shit together, it's a good app for that. I might start doing that. I really don't have the time or energy to create a whole new YouTube channel for every kind of video that I want to produce. So I'm just going to let the algorithm continue to destroy me if that's what needs to happen. But one of the videos I think I'll post in the next couple of weeks will be a how-to video for using this app Trello to create a to-do list Kanban board for yourself that you can use to help organize your life. And I'll kind of teach you the ins and outs, the things I hate about it, the things I like about it. The app is completely free. You can pay for additional features, none of which I have any use for, so I don't pay for it. And I've been using it for several years. There are things I can't stand about it, like I said, and there are other apps that you can use as alternatives to this that I might even touch on. Another one that I've been thinking about moving to is called ClickUp. ClickUp also has a Trello-style Kanban board, but their app, even the free version that you can use, branches out into more capabilities, and it's also free until you want to pay for some extra features that it has, but I really haven't dug deep enough into that. I set up an account, played with it for an afternoon, said I'm going to stick with Trello because it's what I know, and it's free, and I'm just going to leave it there. But if you started out in Trello, you can export all of your Trello boards directly into this app. I did it as an experiment to see what it would look like, and it actually worked pretty well. So if I do want to migrate over to this other app, it's about as easy as setting up a few, it's as easy as hitting a few buttons and waiting for it to do its thing. But what I don't have right now is the ability to discover all the new problems and all the new things that I'm going to hate about using a new piece of software. And if something comes along that completely disrupts my flow that I didn't anticipate, because sometimes you don't find out about things until you're too deep into a piece of software. Once you start using it regularly, you start to find the problems. But if you're just tinkering with it, you don't notice them. So I don't have the patience for that right now, so I'm sticking with Trello. But that should also help me get set up and figure out my process for doing Photoshop and photography tutorials and graphic design tutorials with YouTube. Because I'm going to have to set up a microphone, the screen recording, and about 3 or 4 other things to be able to do a video about Trello. And it's a simple enough thing to do that I can get some prerequisites done so that I can later on say, okay, now it's time to do some Photoshop tutorials and things like that. And so, but at the same time, I have to, like I said, over and over again, got to find a place to live, got to find a vehicle. Got my birth certificate situation figured out, but I got to go get my driver's license. They're making that a big hassle. And, there's 10 other things that I have to try and get done in the next couple of weeks. And it's just, I can only do so much, and so can you. And that's why I think teaching you guys how to use a tool like this to organize your crazy ass life, just one of many tools that I use to try and do that, you might find it useful, and you might actually, this might be something that you would stick with. I've been sticking with it since April, minus a little bit of neglect here and there, but it really does help me keep on track. It really helps me keep on track, and it reminds me of things I would have otherwise forgotten about, and it also reminds me to check in when something is stuck. I have this blocked column, and I see there's 13 items that I'm stuck on that I can't do anything to move forward with because I'm waiting for somebody else to do something. Get birth certificate from New York State was one of those, and as of right now, I can cross that off. But I might just leave it in the blocked column because my paranoia says if I go to the DMV with this new one, are they going to accept it this time, or are they going to tell me it's the wrong shade of blue? Or, whatever the case may be. And so until I get that driver's license in my hand, I might just not cross it off. But I might cross it off because it's done. And if Texas says, you got to get the red one, not the blue one, whatever, then I'll come home and put a new task to get the red birth certificate instead of the blue birth certificate. So whatever. I don't know. I don't expect anything but the worst when it comes to the government. And neither should you, because what else do they do? That's all these assholes ever fucking do, is give us the worst that they can give us. So, but I am very grateful for those of you who stick around and offer the kind words of encouragement, the advice, the witty banter, and all of the comments in the comment section below. It makes me want to keep doing this, and it makes me want to just keep taking this channel and my life in whatever direction the good Lord wants to go with it. And so with that, I'm at 1 hour and 10 minutes. I know, so many short attention span people never make it this far, but if you did, I appreciate you. You're a super fan. And until next time, I'm just going to say peace out. Have a good one.